Hi, everyone, and welcome to session 3 of the series Startup, where John Houston provides 7 tips for us of what he believes are the building blocks to starting a healthy and thriving business. John, how are you doing today?
Good, I'm doing great.
Awesome. And we're excited to have our guest and friend with us, Terry Trayvick. Terry is our Chief Strategy Officer for the JH family of companies and has been with us for quite some time. And we're excited to loop you into the conversation today, Terry. How are you doing?
I'm well, looking forward to today's conversation. So good to see you guys.
Yeah. So we've already shared a couple of tips with everybody, John. And John, we sincerely appreciate your heart as just a Christian businessman and how everything you do is centered on the fact that you are a child of God. And so we learned in tip 1 to seek God first before moving forward with any plans to start a business. In the second tip, we learned to tackle the why and to know the purpose for your business, because everything else hinges on that. But today we get to talk about tip number 3, which is the A in startup, and that stands for architect the business plan. And so, John, just talk to us for a little bit about why this step is so critically important.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, first of all, man, I'm so glad to have Terry on the call with us. And guys, really listen to this because Terry's taught me so much, so I very much value him. But let me tell you, the reason why is because whether you are it's just you in your startup, or whether it quickly grows to a team, the plan behind it is huge. Because what happens is, for example, when we started our business, right out of the gate, year 1, right after we started, is when the market crashed. Well, if we didn't have a plan in place, we would have been reacting to the market the whole time. We wouldn't have been reacting and staying focused on the purpose and the plan that God actually gave us. So it becomes incredibly critical that you actually have a plan and you follow it. Doesn't mean you might not have to adjust it along the way, but you need to stay true to that core of the plan.
Yeah, very true. So Terry, you've played a very strategic role with the whole JH family of companies since the beginning, and have helped us start a lot of the companies that we have today. And not to mention, you've also served as the CEO for a Fortune 500 company in your past. So you know a lot about this. Can you kind of break down for everyone what are the key components of a business plan, and what should they consider when putting one together?
Sure, yeah. As you said, we've done a lot of this as John and I together and in my past, but there are some fundamental things you want to look at when you're starting a company and putting together a plan. The first thing you need to do is do your homework, right? So that's step number 1. You can't skip that step. You need to know what's going on with your competitors, what's going on in the marketplace, what the opportunities are, et cetera. And once you've done that, the very first thing you need to do is to know where you're going. It makes no sense to have a plan if you don't have a destination. And what we call that is our aspiration, our business aspiration. When John and I first started working together, we said, hey, we want to get to a certain level of sales in 3 to 5 years. And we put together a plan to do that. So we were clear, that was our aspiration. Once you do that, you then answer the question, how? So if I know what I want to do, now I have to answer how I'm going to do it. And in business, there are 3 fundamental areas where you want to answer the question around how. How am I going to grow my business? How am I going to become more efficient? And then how am I going to be distinctive versus my competitors? And those are really your 3 strategic planks: growth, efficiency, and distinctiveness. Then you just put the structure in place to go with it. Very importantly, you need to make sure your culture that you want to have is in place and make that match your aspiration and your strategy. You then started putting certain metrics in place to know how you're doing along the way. Just like if you're going on a road trip, you need a gauge. How far away am I? How fast am I going? You know, what am I overheating my engine, right? So it's the same kind of thing in business, having those key metrics in place. Then you just map out a roadmap on how you're going to deliver all those things in a sequential measure, or simultaneously as well over that 3-year period. And then you start executing. And then finally, you pull all this together in a financial model so that you understand the resources that you need and the resources you're going to create along the way. So those are the fundamentals of pulling together a business plan. Obviously, there's a lot more detail but that gives you an overview of some of the necessary steps.
Yeah, Terry, you make it sound so easy.
I would say it's this. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yep.
Very wise. Very wise. Well, John, I'm just listening to that, and you've gone through that step a number of times. What are one of those things that he talked about that's part of the business plan that you have some good examples for that you can just close us out and give everybody a real life application to it?
Yeah, for me, one is really identifying what needs you're fulfilling, as well as the profitability side. I remember when we had been in business about a year, like I said earlier, and the market crashed. Man, that became critical that we stayed focused on what need were we trying to fulfill and where were we going. So to the aspiration piece that Terry was talking about, that was key, because what we had to know was we can't let the market dictate the decisions that we're making. We should already know the decisions that we're making. We may have to make some adjustments to it, but you got to stay clear on your path, and that keeps you from, to Terry's example of, if you have a destination of where you're going, you get on the road, you start driving. Detours can take you a lot of different directions, but you need to be able to get back in the lane on the road you need to be on as fast as possible so that you're not detoured. Because then you can just end up anywhere, and somebody else is driving you there instead of staying on track.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John and Terry. And thank you, all of our listeners. And we hope that this has been helpful. Tip number 3 is architect a business plan. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.